A ship vanished. Then it came back. Wrong. Event Horizon wasn't just another sci-fi horror, it was a cinematic anomaly. A studio project disowned. A film gutted before it could finish screaming. When it opened in 1997, few knew what they were walking into. A haunted spaceship, a gateway to hell, a cast of actors reacting not just to scripted terror, but to scenes so intense, even they couldn't watch. And behind it all, a version of the film no one ever truly saw. One that was longer, sicker, now lost, maybe intentionally. Over time, Event Horizon became something else, not a movie, but a myth. A legend traded on message boards, whispered about in film school corridors. A project that was never finished, only survived. These are 20 weird facts you didn't know about Event Horizon, a film that opened a door into something darker than space and left it ajar. Fact number 1. The version they didn't want you to see was real. There once existed a cut of Event Horizon, so graphic, so unrelenting, that it never made it out of the vaults. The original version ran over 2 hours, loaded with extended hell sequences, dismemberment, self-mutilation, and imagery that pushed past entertainment into something else, ritualized violence. Paramount executives were horrified. They demanded deep cuts. Entire scenes were removed, including character arcs and visual threads that explained the ship's descent into chaos. The footage? Lost. Or worse, intentionally destroyed. Only a handful of low-quality VHS fragments remain. A few grainy stills. The director himself confirmed, the full version may be gone forever. This isn't a myth, it was real. And somewhere out there, in a salt mine or a landfill, the nightmare version still waits. Fact number 2. The ship was built as a cathedral to suffering. The Event Horizon doesn't feel like a machine, it feels sacred. Set designer Joseph Bennett combined the cold lines of industrial science fiction with Gothic cathedral-designed spires, arches, stone-like metal, even Latin scripture carved into bulkheads. The engine core resembles a sacrificial altar spike surrounding a sphere that hums with malice. This wasn't a ship that malfunctioned. It was a temple built to open something, or welcome something in. Its very geometry distorts time and space, echoing medieval architecture meant to humble the viewer before God. Except in this case, there's no God, only gravity, and what waits behind it. Fact number 3. Even Sam Neill couldn't face what he filmed. He played Dr. Weir, a man who loses his grip on reality. But off-screen, Sam Neill found himself shaken too. The scenes involving the ship's log flashes of crew members performing ritualistic mutilation were so disturbing that Neill refused to watch them after filming. He later admitted in interviews, "It wasn't acting anymore, it felt like something else." And others agreed. A makeup artist walked off set during those sequences. One extra reportedly fainted while watching a playback. Neill has starred in Dinosaurs, Demons, and Madness, but Event Horizon left a deeper mark, not because of what he performed, but because of what he believed he saw. Fact number 4. The gravity drive was modeled after a puzzle that summons hell. The heart of the Event Horizon is a spinning sphere, a gateway, a weapon, a mystery. But its design wasn't pulled from science textbooks, it was pulled from horror. Director Paul W.S. Anderson instructed the team to study the Lament configuration from Hellraiser, a puzzle box that doesn't open doors, but unleashes torment. The gravity drive was built the same way, symmetrical, hypnotic, beautiful in a way that feels wrong. On set, the sphere rotated for real, no CGI. It reflected everything, the actors, the lights, and sometimes things no one remembered placing there. It was meant to represent infinity, but it ended up representing something far worse. Curiosity with consequences. Fact. Fem. Lawrence Fishburne didn't say yes. Until he read one scene. The script for Event Horizon wasn't an easy sell. Brutal, bleak, disjointed. But there was one scene that stopped Lawrence Fishburne cold. A man, burning alive and silent. In space? Alone. That moment convinced him. Captain Miller wasn't just a sci-fi hero. He was a tragic figure, a man leading others into a place he didn't understand, carrying guilt he'd never escape. Fishburne said it felt Shakespearean. Cosmic horror, with weight. The final cut trimmed many of Miller's layers, but that burn sequence stayed, and it remains one of the film's most devastating images, not because it's loud, but because it isn't. Fact number 6. Rushed, butchered, and sacrificed to Titanic. Paramount didn't believe in the film. They feared Titanic would swallow the box office, so they pushed Event Horizon to finish early. How early? 6 weeks of post-production. For a film with over 400 visual effects, shots, color grading was incomplete, sound design was patched together. Scenes were cut not for pacing, but for survival. The director asked for more time. He was told no. The irony? Titanic was delayed anyway. Event Horizon was offered up as a sacrificial lamb, rushed into theaters, undermarketed, and quietly buried. And yet, it didn't die. It just got lost. And sometimes, that's when a story begins. Fact number 7. The hell sequence wasn't fiction. It was research-based trauma. The flashes of chaos, the mutilated bodies, the unspeakable acts glimpsed in one horrifying montage. That wasn't just horror movie imagination. It was researched horror. To achieve something truly unforgettable, the filmmakers studied real images, wartime atrocities, crime scene photography, forensic medical footage. The result? A montage that hits harder than any slasher kill because it looks possible, like something the world has already done. The performers, dancers, and contortionists moved with unnatural grace. Their pain wasn't just visual, it was rhythmic, almost ceremonial. These scenes weren't about jump scares, they were about memory. And what happens when you try to erase it, but it finds a way back? Fact number 8. Exorcism rites were etched into the ship's skeleton. Latin phrases line the ship's walls, ominous, ancient, almost invisible. One stands out, liberat tutumet ex inferis. Save yourself from hell. But that's not just a spooky quote. It comes directly from Catholic exorcism rituals. A script consultant with a theology background pulled language from forbidden texts, some even banned by modern churches. Other phrases are jumbled, reversed, layered over each other, the linguistic equivalent of a demonic chant. They weren't meant to be read. They were meant to linger. You don't understand the event horizon by exploring it. You understand it by confessing to it. Fact number 9. It was almost rated NC-17 for what it made people feel. The MPAA reviews content, blood, language, nudity. But with Event Horizon, the problem wasn't any one scene, it was the feeling. Test screeners described it as spiritually oppressive. Executives used words like desecration. One reviewer simply walked out. The film almost earned an NC-17 not for what it showed, but for what it refused to relieve. There's no hero's journey, no victory, no explanation, just descent. To get an R rating, Anderson had to trim seconds, just seconds. But the damage was already done. The fear was still intact, and so was the silence after the credits rolled. Fact number 10. One crew member quit and wouldn't explain why. You hear stories on horror sets, lights flickering, strange noises, cold air. But on Event Horizon, one crew member did more than talk. They left. No announcement, no goodbye, just a sentence, overheard by a grip. I'm not staying here another night. Cast and crew later shared whispers, unexplained equipment failures during certain scenes, props shifting position overnight, a crucifix falling from a wall with no vibration or trigger, nothing provable. Everything felt it might have been nerves or exhaustion. But in a film about a ship that infects the mind, maybe that was the point. Fact number 11. The most peaceful shot was the hardest to film. Dr. Weir, floating in space, weightless, silent, alone. It's one of the calmest shots in the film, and it nearly broke the production. The rig holding Sam Neill malfunctioned constantly. Reflections ruined takes. 1 week was spent correcting a single light flare on his visor. Post-production had to paint out cables, reconstruct starlight, and smooth Neill's breathing frame by frame. And all of it was for a shot that lasts seconds. But that moment, that stillness before everything collapses, is what makes the horror work. Peace is always more terrifying when you know what's coming next. Fact number 12. The film was meant to launch a universe of darkness. Event Horizon was never planned as a one-off. Paramount envisioned a franchise, not sequels, but spiritual successors. One ship per film, one nightmare each time. Scripts were drafted. A novel prequel was outlined. A graphic novel was pitched under the title Black Gate. The connective tissue? The dimension itself. Not hell, something colder. But when the film bombed at the box office, everything was canceled. No spin-offs, no tie-ins, just silence. All that remains is the wreckage of the ship, of the plan, and of the world they almost created. Fact number 13. The blood was real enough to make people gag. The fake blood used in Event Horizon wasn't dangerous, but it was cold. The temperature on set dropped after a ventilation failure, turning the syrupy fluid into a thick, icy sludge. Actors weren't just acting revolted, they were revolted. Jason Isaacs recalled stepping into the pool and instantly retching. Some extras needed blankets between takes. One fainted. But the camera kept rolling. The discomfort bled into the performance, and when the audience watched, they felt it too, that involuntary shiver, that twist in the stomach. It wasn't the gore, it was the reality under it. Fact number 14. A forbidden frame is still being debated. Somewhere around the 55-minute mark, buried in a sequence of flashing images, there's a frame you're not supposed to see. It doesn't match the rest. No prosthetics, no stylization, just a still, grainy image of a dissected body. Some say it's real, taken from an old anatomy reel. Others say it was planted by a rogue editor or slipped in during post by someone trying to leave a scar. There's no confirmation, no denial, only freeze frames, forums, theories. The question isn't whether it's real. The question is, why does it feel like it is? Fact number 15. The core almost claimed a life. The engine room of the Event Horizon is unforgettable, a cathedral of rotating rings and cold steel. But it wasn't just cinematic, it was lethal. The core was a real, mechanized set piece. During a rehearsal, a cameraman stepped in at the wrong time. The rings activated early. One spin missed his head by inches. The impact destroyed his rig. Filming paused. New safety rules were written overnight. The crew never looked at the drive the same way again. The story goes that someone whispered after the accident, "The ship doesn't want to be filmed anymore." No one laughed. Fact number 16. Real science was the root of this nightmare. Before the screams, before the blood, there was physics. The Event Horizon's gravity drive, a machine that folds space to travel instantly, wasn't just fantasy. It was inspired by the Einstein-Rosen bridge, a real theoretical wormhole model debated by physicists and speculative engineers in the early 92nd. The concept was sound. The math was terrifying. What if you didn't just move through space, but broke through it? Writer Philip Eisner took that science and twisted it. Instead of a shortcut to distant stars, he built a doorway to something far older. And the ship, once a marvel of human invention, became a cautionary tale. Sometimes, the unknown doesn't want to be touched. Fact number 17. The man on fire wasn't acting. The image is burned into the memory. A man, a flame, floating weightlessly in the dark. You assume it's CGI. It's not. The fire was real. The stuntman was suspended on wires, fully ignited, spinning slowly as the cameras rolled. Layers of flame-retardant gel, timing down to milliseconds, and a strict 2-take limit. Anything more, and the heat would start breaking through. The crew was silent. Even Lawrence Fishburne didn't speak after the first take, because what they'd just seen didn't feel like performance. It felt like sacrifice. Fact number 18. A marketing campaign that lied to survive. If you watched the trailer, you were misled. Event Horizon was advertised as a sleek sci-fi thriller, bold fonts, quick cuts, zero blood. No demons, no despair, no hell. Audiences walked in expecting aliens. What they got was closer to Dante. The reaction was violent, not in the theater, but in the boardrooms. Paramount panicked, ads were pulled, promotion vanished. The film was buried before it even had a chance. But what they tried to erase, fans unearthed. Not because it was safe, but because it wasn't. Fact number 19. The ending was meant to be pure despair. In the version you saw, the survivors are rescued. But that was never the original plan. The first cut ended with the crew found in stasis, eyes open, screaming silently, conscious but frozen. They hadn't escaped. They had brought something back with them. Test audiences recoiled. The studio demanded changes. Hope was inserted. Ambiguity added. The final scream softened. But even now, that last scene doesn't feel like closure. It feels like something watching you, waiting. Fact number 20. Human faces are hidden in the ship's walls. The Event Horizon isn't just a ship. It's a monument, and if you look closely, it shows you what it's built from. Faces. Dozens of them. Screaming, gasping, embedded into the architecture, sculpted into bulkheads, hidden in shadows, blinking past in flashes of red light. Most viewers never notice, but your brain does. And that's the point. The ship doesn't want to be seen. It wants to be felt. Bonus fact. A lost tape briefly returned from the void. In 2011, a rumor surfaced. A VHS copy of the lost Event Horizon assembly cut had been found in a salt mine deep underground in Romania. It was degraded, damaged, but real. Anderson was shown the footage. Extended hell scenes, alternate endings, missing context. Then the tape disappeared. No copy, no rip, no screenshots. It was as if it had blinked into existence, just long enough to remind us that it had been real. That cut is gone, maybe permanently, but the fear it left behind? Still here. Some doors were never meant to open. But if you made it this far, maybe you were meant to see what's inside. Tell us in the comments which fact stayed with you, and what other buried films should we uncover next. Like, subscribe, and remember, the Event Horizon never really closed.